The silence in the house was dense, laden with unspoken words and forgotten promises. What was once a vibrant home now seemed like an empty stage, where even footsteps sounded like echoes of a distant past. The children, once joyful, now hid behind half-open doors, involuntary witnesses to a love unravelling into shouts and cold stares. But when the children disappeared, leaving behind only a note and a desperate plea for peace, the parents realised, sometimes it is the softest voices that shout the hardest truths. And now the question remains, is it too late to repair what has been broken? Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Kirsty awoke to the weight of silence. It wasn't just any silence, it was the kind of silence that carries years of unspoken words, smiles turned into sighs, hands that no longer meet at night. The house was so quiet she could hear the kitchen clock ticking, each tick a reminder of the time moving forward while her marriage remained stagnant. She ran her fingers across the empty side of the bed. Dean had slept on the couch for the third consecutive night. The memories of Tuesday's argument still echoed off the walls, his voice, too loud, hers, too sharp. And in the midst of it all, the frightened eyes of Lucas and Ian, their 8- and 6-year-old sons, peering through the doorway. When did they reach this point? They weren't like those couples who fall in love too young without knowing the world. Kirsty was 32 when she met Dean, a 35-year-old engineer, during a photography course. He had large hands and a shy smile that unfolded slowly, like someone revealing a secret. She loved the way he observed things before speaking, as if each word deserved consideration. They built everything calmly. A small apartment that turned into a house with a backyard, Sundays of movies and popcorn, the books shared with notes in the margins, modest trips to the beach, where Lucas learned to swim and Ian lost his first baby tooth. They had an ordinary life, but it was theirs. It was good. Kirsty got up and went to the window. The curtains were half open, like everything in her life lately, neither completely exposed nor totally hidden. When did the burden of bills, Dean's overtime, her frustrations over her career halted by motherhood start creating this chasm? The fridge was almost empty. On the corkboard in the kitchen, a drawing by Ian showed 4 smiling stick figures. It looked like a relic from another time. Kirsty touched the drawing with her fingertips, feeling the lump in her throat tighten. The night before, she had called her brother Pedro. "Can you pick up the boys, just for tonight? Dean and I need to talk." What she didn't say was that she feared what this conversation might reveal, that she feared that this time the chasm would be too wide to cross. Pedro arrived quickly. The boys already had their backpacks ready, a sad indication of how accustomed they were becoming to the temporary escapes. "You will come back tomorrow, okay? It's just one night at Uncle Pedro's house," Kirsty promised, hugging them tightly, inhaling the scent of children's shampoo that always calmed her. But it was not just one night. The next morning, Kirsty called. Pedro's voice sounded hesitant. "They are fine, but Dean called me. He asked for them to stay one more day. He said you need some space." "Space?" Kirsty felt a tightness in her chest. "He didn't talk to me about this." "Talk to him, Kirsty. The boys are fine here." But when Kirsty confronted Dean in the kitchen, he just ran his hand through the grey hair at his temples, a gesture she once found charming but now seemed merely tired. "I thought it would be better for everyone. We need to resolve this between us before they come back." "Resolve what exactly?" she asked, feeling the frustration grow. "We barely talk. You come home late, eat dinner in silence and sleep on the couch. And you're always irritated, Kirsty. Always dissatisfied with everything I do." The words hung between them like shards of broken glass. They both knew there was truth there, but neither was willing to pick up the pieces at that moment. On the second day, Kirsty called Pedro again. This time she asked to speak with the boys. Lucas's excited voice surprised her. "Uncle Pedro made chocolate pancakes, Mom, and we spent the afternoon in the park with Uncle Pedro." How nice, my love. She forced a light tone. Are you ready to come back? Dad and I miss you. There was a pause, an exchange of glances she couldn't see but could feel. I think we want to stay a little longer, Mum, Lucas finally replied. A little longer? Kirsty felt a chill in her stomach. Why? It's just, we're having fun. And, his voice dropped to almost a whisper, it's quieter here. Quieter. The words hit Kirsty like a slap. Her children preferred the peace of their uncle's house to the home where they grew up. When she hung up the phone, she found Dean in the living room staring at a family photo on the shelf. They don't want to come back, she said, unable to hide the accusation in her voice. What do you want me to do, Kirsty? Force them to return to a house where the parents barely speak to each other? On the third day, the situation worsened. Kirsty called early, eager to hear her children's voices. Pedro answered with an apologetic tone. They're outside playing, Kirsty. They said they prefer not to talk on the phone. What do you mean they prefer not to talk? Her voice rose an octave. They're my children, Pedro. Put them on the phone. Kirsty, calm down. They're fine, I swear. They're just taking a break, I think. Taking a break, as if they were adults in a complicated relationship, not children aged 6 and 8. When Dean got home from work that evening, Kirsty was sitting at the kitchen table, staring into space. There was a cup of cold tea in front of her, and pages of a magazine flipped through aimlessly. They didn't want to talk to me today, she said, without looking at him. Our own children. Dean sat down in front of her, his hands clasped on the table. He looked older under the cold kitchen light, the lines around his eyes deeper. Pedro said they are fine, right? Fine, away from their parents. What's happening, Dean? She finally looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. What have we done to our family? He didn't respond. There was no simple answer. Throughout the day, Kirsty's anxiety transformed into something more intense. She started calling Pedro repeatedly, demanding to speak with the boys. When he finally admitted that they had asked to stay longer, something broke inside her. This isn't right, she said to Dean that night, her hands trembling as she washed the same dish for the third time. Something is wrong. Very wrong. Kirsty, they're just taking a break from the situation. It's normal. Normal? She turned sharply. Since when is it normal for kids to run away from their parents? What have you been telling them about me? What is Pedro saying? No one is saying anything, Kirsty. The boys are fine. Well? She slammed her hand on the counter. My children are refusing to talk to me. This is no good, Dean. It's parental alienation. That's what's happening. His face paled. What? You can't be serious. I'm very serious. If they don't come back tomorrow, I'll take action. I'll report it. Report it? To Child Services? Because of 3 days at their uncle's house? If necessary, she said, her voice trembling. I will do whatever it takes to bring my children back, even if it means... She didn't finish the sentence, but the unspoken lingered between them. Even if it means ending what remained of the marriage. Dean left that night without saying where he was going. Kirsty was left alone, phone in hand, alternating between anger and fear. She thought about calling a lawyer friend, seeking guidance on her rights. She thought about the life she would have as a single mother, the bi-weekly visits, the shared birthday parties. She thought about how long it would take to sell the house and divide the furniture, how she would explain to the boys that Mommy and Daddy couldn't resolve their issues. At 11:42 p.m, the doorbell rang. Kirsty started. Her heart raced as she walked to the door. She expected to find Dean, maybe Pedro bringing the boys. She wasn't prepared for what she saw. Dean was standing on the threshold, his face pale with exhaustion. His eyes were red, as if he had been crying. In his hands, he held a crumpled brown envelope. What is this? She asked, her voice almost inaudible. He didn't answer. He just extended the envelope. Kirsty picked it up with trembling fingers. The envelope was light, but it seemed to contain the weight of the world. She opened it slowly, with Dean still standing at the door, as if he feared entering his own home. Inside there were 3 sheets of paper. The first 2 were drawings made with coloured markers. The third was a letter on notebook paper, written in Lucas's clumsy handwriting. The first drawing showed 2 large figures with red scribbles coming out of their mouths, clearly her and Dean arguing. In the corner of the paper, 2 smaller figures were huddled together, holding hands, with blue tears streaming down their faces. The second drawing showed the same small figures holding signs that read, in crooked letters, "Stop yelling" and "We want peace." The third was a house without windows, only with a door and a chimney. In the place where the windows should have been, there were black marks, as if they had been erased. On the roof, a big, yellow, smiling sun, completely incongruous with the rest of the gloomy image. With her hands trembling even more, Kirsty unfolded the letter. "Dear Mum and Dad, we love you both. But we get scared when you fight. Ian and I decided to stay here a little longer, to see if you remember how to love again. We wanted you to be happy again. Just like before. If you love each other again, we'll come back. Lucas." Ian helped, but he doesn't know how to write very much. Kirsty felt her legs weaken. She leaned against the wall, the envelope pressed to her chest. She couldn't look at Dean. She couldn't speak. He finally entered, closing the door behind him. "I went to your brother's house. Pedro gave me this today. The boys made it last night. Our sons..." Kirsty finally found her voice, but it came out strangled. "Our sons are running away from us." "No." Dean took a hesitant step towards her. "They're trying to save us." For the first time in weeks, maybe months, they truly looked into each other's eyes. Not with anger, not with accusation, but with the painful acknowledgement of everything they had lost along the way. Kirsty didn't know who took the first step. Maybe they both moved at the same time. The hug was awkward, like that of 2 strangers trying to comfort each other. But it was real. The tears came soon after, silent at first, then in sobs that seemed to come from deep within. "What have we done, Dean?" she whispered against his shoulder. "We forgot what matters," he replied, his voice choked with emotion. "We forgot why we started." That night, they talked until dawn, not to accuse or defend themselves, but to truly listen. Dean spoke about the overwhelming burden he felt trying to support the family, the constant fear of failing, the exhaustion that made him shut down instead of sharing. Kirsty confessed the frustration of having abandoned her career, the resentment that grew when she felt her needs were always last, the isolation of full-time motherhood. "I love you," he said, as the first rays of sunlight came through the window. "I never stopped loving you." "I love you too," she replied, realizing it was true. Beneath all the hurt, the love was still there, like an ember waiting to be rekindled. The next day, they called Pedro together on speakerphone. They asked to speak to the boys. "Daddy and Mummy miss you," Dean said, his voice gentle. "We saw your drawings. And the letter." There was a pause on the other end. Then Ian's small voice. "Will you stop fighting?" Kirsty swallowed hard. "We can't promise to never fight again, my love, but we promise to try to talk more and shout less, and always, always love you both, no matter what happens." "And are you going to love each other again?" Lucas asked, the hope evident in his childish voice. Dean looked at Kirsty, his eyes moist. "We never stopped, son. We just forgot how to show it." They didn't bring the boys back immediately. Instead, they took 3 days to rebuild bridges. Dean brought flowers home, not an expensive bouquet, but daisies from the garden, her favourites. Kirsty made the breakfast he loved with pancakes and fruit, and left a note on the fridge. "So you remember that I still know what you like?" Small gestures. Small new beginnings. On the 4th day, Peter brought the boys. They entered hesitantly, like frightened little animals testing a new territory. Lucas carried his sketchbook. Ian hugged a worn-out teddy bear. "Welcome back," Kirsty said, kneeling to be at their level. She didn't force hugs or exaggerated displays of affection. She simply opened her arms, letting them decide. Ian was the first to approach, burying his face in her neck. Lucas looked at his father, who nodded slightly, before joining the embrace. "The house feels sad without you," Dean said, joining the family hug. That night, they had dinner together. The meal wasn't perfect. Ian spilled juice. Lucas complained about the vegetables. But there was something different in the air, a lightness they hadn't felt in a long time. After putting the boys to bed, Kirsty found Dean on the porch, gazing at the stars. She sat down next to him, allowing their shoulders to touch lightly. "We have a lot of work ahead," she said. "I know," he agreed, "but now I know why it's worth fighting for." In the following weeks, they established new routines. Dean started keeping his phone put away when he got home, dedicating at least 1 hour exclusively to the family. Kirsty found a psychologist and resumed taking photography lessons once a week, a small step towards reclaiming her identity beyond being a mother and a wife. They created the Family Council on Sundays, where everyone could express concerns and wishes for the week. Lucas asked for more board games. Ian wanted bedtime stories. Dean suggested walks in the park. Kirsty proposed home movie nights. It wasn't a magical transformation. There were still tough days, moments of frustration and minor arguments. But now there was also a shared intention, a renewed commitment not just to the marriage, but to the family they had created. The brown envelope was stored in the bedside table drawer, not as a painful reminder, but as a testament to the wisdom that sometimes comes from the smallest voices. As a reminder that even when adults lose their way, love can find unexpected ways to bring everyone back home. 6 months later, Kirsty found a new drawing in Lucas's notebook. It showed the same house from the previous drawings, but now with large open windows, colourful curtains and 4 smiling figures in the garden. On the roof, the same bright sun, but this time it seemed to perfectly belong to the scene below. Some wounds take time to heal completely. Some stories don't have perfect endings, but in that house where silence once reigned, laughter now echoed. Conversations, renewed dreams, and that, for now, was more than enough. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.